My Lords, I'd like to begin by also paying tribute to my noble friend Baroness Rock for her superb chairmanship of the Autism Act 2009 Committee, and also to my fellow committee members and the diligent committee staff, and above all, to the nearly 400 individuals and organisations who submitted written evidence to us. There's a key figure we should all remember: 30%. 30% is the employment rate for autistic adults in this country, against a general working age employment rate of around 75%. That 45% gap represents tens of thousands of people's ambitions being unfulfilled. Sir Alan Milburn's interim NEETS review showed that autistic young people are disproportionately more likely to have been excluded from school and locked out of the labour market. The government's mission to get Britain working can't succeed if we continue to overlook one of the most significant untapped pools of talent available to the country. Sir Charlie Mayfield rightly made the point to our committee that the business case for inclusive hiring isn't a matter of corporate social responsibility, but a matter of competitive advantage. Autistic employees frequently bring precisely the kind of focused, analytical thinking increasingly valued and required in a complex economy. In my role as president of the Jobs Foundation, as declared in the Register, I've seen some of these case studies firsthand. Green King has a supported internships programme recruiting neurodiverse employees, and finds that with often simple adjustments, autistic employees thrive and bring real value to their company and customers. And it's not just large corporates. EdCortex, a specialist SME in Guildford, has a recruitment model built around harnessing the skills of neurodivergent workers for data and analytical tasks. I was glad that our committee's report acknowledged that the right tax incentives are essential to help businesses hire more people facing barriers into employment. My Lords, I'd now like to touch on the issue of public awareness and acceptance of autism and autistic people. It was notable that despite receiving a record number of public responses to our consultation, our final report received almost no media coverage and minimal social media interest. The public appetite to give evidence to the committee was inversely proportional to the media's interest in reporting what that evidence produced. This isn't a criticism of any individual journalist, but one of the key planks of the original 2009 autism strategy was raising awareness. 17 years on, this lack of interest illustrates the challenges in achieving that goal. In our evidence session with ministers, they acknowledged there's no meaningful or regular analysis of public opinion to measure how awareness and public attitudes towards autism are changing. There's good intent, I can see that, but not the kind of structured, ministerially led initiative that our report and the strategy calls for. One small but telling illustration. On World Autism Day last year, there were no social media posts from Number 10. Neither were there this year. What message does this send to the 700,000 autistic adults and children in the UK and their families? One final point. It's also important that people with autism who feel comfortable doing so are open about their diagnosis. In May, when I listened to the moving maiden speech of the noble lady Baroness Lehman, who was sitting over there at the time, who sadly isn't in her place, she touched on her children and their neurodiversity. And I found myself thinking that perhaps I too should have declared a relevant personal interest during my work on this committee. I was formally diagnosed as being autistic in my early 40s, but the signs were there from an early age. To mention just one aspect, as a child I needed extensive sessions with a speech therapist, who you heard over there, to coax me into speaking. And at school, on bad days, I would freeze entirely when asked to read aloud. I feel like that now. But I'm lucky. The hyper-focus, the pattern recognition, the pursuit of special interests, without this wiring, I doubt I would have had the drive to push through the setbacks and methodically build 7 campaign groups. I'm acutely aware that this isn't everyone's story, and that's precisely why updating the autism strategy matters so much. Too many autistic adults are not given employment opportunities. Too many autistic children are being failed by our current SEND system, and too many people have to wait far too long for a diagnosis that might finally explain why the world has always felt slightly harder than it should. I was fortunate in my path. The purpose of this report and of the strategy is to make sure that luck has less to do with it.